My name is Emily Mullen. I'm a teaching assistant in the art and art history department at CU Boulder.
And this interview is for an exercise in a course that I'm taking this semester, so for the purposes of this exercise, you consent to being interviewed and recorded.
I do, yeah.
I would like to learn about your experience of gender in the workplace, so can you describe where you work in as much detail as possible?
Sure. I teach a couple recitations a week for the World Art class and supplement to the main professor's lecture, and I do grading and that sort of thing. So, yeah. I think there's more women than men in the classes, but I do have a good number of men. Sometimes you get mostly women in these art history classes.
Can you describe a typical day? What activities do you do?
On a typical teaching day, I'm just handing out papers, and then we're going over readings, and then I kind of facilitate group discussion, and I do that with every class. It's pretty repetitive, but a lot of my work is also done outside of the classroom, either like preparing for lessons or going to meetings with the other teaching assistants, because we have to make sure we're doing everything consistently across the different courses. And I think I also, of course, attend the lectures taught by the main professor, Dr. Cordova.
Who are your coworkers and what activities do they do? Which is
yeah. So we all pretty much do the same thing, and that's intentional. We try and coordinate. We meet every week to coordinate and make sure we're all on the same page.
What activities do you think do men do, and what activities do women do?
So it's interesting because all of if I didn't mention it already, all the TAs this semester are women, and I think last semester there was only one gentleman. So it's very woman heavy. If there were, I'm not sure if there was really any difference, just because this job is so standardized across. We're all supposed to do the same thing.
Is there any time that your own gender or the gender of a coworker was an issue?
For instance, I know there have been TAs in the past who they've had students come into office hours and then possibly maybe get a little inappropriate, and so I am sure that's much more of an issue with women than men. And then of course in any university setting, then you can also have that issue with like professors that you're working with and that sort of thing. I don't think that anyone's had any issues anytime recently. Certainly not with any of the professors in the department. They're all really great. Some women who are TAs deal with is that sometimes students don't take them as seriously. And so he said that's something we maybe have to look out for. I haven't really had a problem with that, at least as far as I know. But that is something, I think, as far as gender in the workplace goes, that is an issue that you can get kind of in a teaching setting.
I think certain occupations should be gender specific,
Now, certainly with this job, I don't think it matters if you're a man or a woman, but there are jobs. The only thing I can think of is if you're in possibly cultural or social situations where maybe people might be more comfortable with a man or a woman, like an art museum where they had objects from a culture, and within the culture themselves, the objects would only have been handled by men. So it was like, well, maybe we need a male curator to handle that thing. And that was a museum I heard about who's trying to figure out how to deal with that issue because they didn't want to be biased in their hiring.
Your current workplace, you think men and women are treated fairly equally?
Yeah, from what I've seen, and again, it's all women here, but I know, like I've heard
maybe
some.
Just at the university.
Yeah, I've heard some female professors talk about, like for example, at the end of the semester, all faculty get evaluated. They get the FCQ form you fill out, and rate it. And women, if they're strict, they tend to be judged as mean compared to men who they kind of get away with it more.
Generally, kind of outside of the university, do you think gender inequality in workplaces are a real issue?
I worked at Home Depot for a little while, and that's definitely a very, there's mostly men there.
Yeah.
And I worked in the department, and I would find that I didn't have too much of a problem with my fellow employees, but like male customers there would sometimes make inappropriate remarks, or they didn't want me to help them because I was a girl. They would.
Do you feel as male members of staff, your workplace progress quicker than females?
Not necessarily a sense of people getting promoted over other people in this position, particularly in TAs. Again, I feel like for women professors in universities in general, that probably is an issue.